In today's episode number 5, I want to share with you guys the shocking news that many of the food that we have been considering as healthy turns out not to be that healthy. Welcome to the Happy Beyond Fit podcast. My name is Maria Browning, former synchronized swimmer from Colombia turned into a lifestyle entrepreneur. Different plants belong to different categories of plants that either have some chemicals to protect themselves to prevent these particular plant from extinction, or once we ingest it, they bind to certain minerals in our body, absorbing the minerals or blocking our body's ability to absorb the minerals. So we've been eating these plants thinking that we are for sure taking care of the nutrition that our body needs. And as it turns out, the news is that they are causing more damage to our body. So I am going to try my best to explain the different categories as I understand them, but I highly suggest and invite you guys to do your own research. This information came as very shocking to me, especially because I take pride on the fact that for the last 10 years of my life, I've been very dedicated to living what I consider a healthy lifestyle. And I've been running a program that I created 10 years ago, my 10-day detox, which has helped thousands of people all over the world to reduce inflammation, get rid of the brain fog, regain energy, lose weight, especially the waist, around the waist area. So once I started discovering this new information that was not available 10 years ago, this is information that has been coming up in the last 8 years, then I put my 10-day detox on pause because I realized that I need to update all of this information as I was reliant on many of these ingredients. For example, spinach and kale. Those were the base of daily shakes that we were drinking in my 10-day detox program. And now, as it turns out, and I'll explain in a moment, they are causing more damage to our body than any good. So I have not been teaching my program for the last couple of years while I acquire all this information, digest it, because it was very shocking for me to realize at the beginning. And while I go through the process of eliminating these foods from my daily diet, and I explore and see what changes I need to make and if I experience any changes in my health. So I'm in the process of revamping my program. And as I go through this process, I have realized that I have been acquiring so much information that now I want to create a program that is very different, that doesn't just focus on detoxifying the body, which is a very important area. And I still want to have that as an option, but I want to mainly focus on the latest information we have available as far as longevity and how to maintain our health and our energy levels high. Let's understand that food is nothing but fuel. The human being was not designed with the need to eat just for pleasure. The need to eat is because our body runs its own electrical system. And in order for it to go through all of the metabolic functions that every organ requires, it needs fuel. And the fuel comes in form of food. So when we eat some food that we think is healthy, but is not giving the proper fuel to the body, then of course we're depleting our body of certain minerals that are essential for us to enjoy health. So that's why this is very important to talk about. We label food as bad and good food. And it's easy for us to identify what bad food is because it's pretty much anything that you see at the grocery store that has an expiration date. Because as you know, you're never going to buy an apple that has a label with an expiration date, right? Or an avocado or a cauliflower. So anything that you're going to buy in a box, it means that it's being processed and ultra processed. It has an expiration date, it has additives, it has refined sugars, it has oils that are cheap that are going to damage the cells in our body, and it has preservatives. And of course, it's easier to identify all these foods as bad, right? Even though sometimes we prefer not to understand what is the bad that all these foods are doing in our body. So I'm going to mention some of the things, some of the ingredients that these ultra processed foods have that cause damage to our body. But I'm mainly going to share with you guys the shocking list of healthy food, what I consider healthy food, or I've been considering as healthy for many years, that I've had to eliminate from my lifestyle so that I can allow my body to create the energy that it needs to continue to go through all of its metabolic systems and functions of every single one of the organs. So I'm going to mention this list of foods as categories. So we're going to talk about foods that have phytic acid, oxalic acid, lectins. We're going to talk about omega-6 fatty acids, glyphosates, which is foods that have been sprayed with a weed killer. We're going to talk about low quality protein, meat, and low quality milk, low quality fish, and artificial colors or artificial additives in food. So the first category, phytic acid, as I understand it, please don't quote me on this, do your own research, but I just want to share with you guys that these are compounds that come in some plants, bind to the minerals in our body. So in particular, phytic acid, these plants are such as beans, seeds, legumes, nuts, chickpeas, quinoa, all these kinds of foods. When we eat it, it binds to the calcium, magnesium, manganese, chromium, and zinc in our body, which means that our body is not absorbing any of those minerals. And if we had it already, then that plant or that food we're eating is finding it in our body, binding to it and absorbing it, which causes inflammation in our body, causes low energy. And let's understand that when the body is deficient in a mineral, then the body is so smart that it starts borrowing the mineral from other organs, because these are essential minerals that we need in order for us to exist. So it starts lowering the function of certain organs that the body considers less essential, so that it can borrow the minerals from that organ. And over time, the depletion of that mineral from that organ, then the organ malfunctions. And that's when we start having a particular disease that affects a particular organ. So that's why it's very important to pay attention to this new knowledge that, yeah, maybe we love this kind of food. Like, for example, quinoa. I used to have it as base of my diet, quinoa with everything. And as it appears, it's highly inflammatory. And if we're going to eat these kind of foods, like beans, legumes, quinoa, we need to make it go through a process of fermentation for several days, and we need to pressure cook it. Otherwise, we already know that it's causing all this damage to the body. The reality is that our body doesn't produce enough of the enzyme that cancels out the phytic acid. So it may be okay, that's what I think, to eat a little bit of it. But when we eat it in such quantities or different of these ingredients that I just mentioned, because we have been thinking that eating nuts is healthy, right? Turns out it's not. Turns out only the macadamia nuts and the pistachios and pine are the only safe nuts. But all of the others are not good. Okay, next category, oxalic acid. Very similar process. These are plants that bind to the calcium in our body. So this is not a shock to you. Leafy greens contain oxalic acid, and as well as all of the other ingredients that I just mentioned. The beans, nuts, seeds, chickpeas, peas, and the nightshades, which are potatoes, the white potatoes, not sweet potato, white potatoes, bell peppers, tomatoes, eggplants. All of these plants, when we eat them, apparently they bind to the calcium in our body, creating tiny little crystals that affect the joints. So that's when we start having joint pain, just because we ate potatoes. Shocking, I know. And it also affects our kidneys. So it can produce kidney stones or simply affect the function of our kidneys. We've been eating, for example, spinach and kale because they are rich in iron, right? But as it turns out, the iron in leafy greens is only 2% absorbable when compared to the iron that we absorb when we eat meat. So that's like nothing. So we've been eating these bowls of spinach and kale thinking that it's giving us all these nutrients, but apparently it's not true. And I've been using these as ingredients on many of my recipes, and I cannot use them anymore. So if you're listening to this and you're one of my beautiful group of people that have taken my 10-day detox, now you understand why I'm no longer teaching it. I want to bring something more updated for you guys that don't put any of us in any risk, because we really need to make sure that we have the essential minerals that our body needs. And the reality is in that in this modern age, it's pretty much impossible to receive all the important essential minerals and vitamins that we need. So we do need to supplement. And now that's another issue, because too many supplements can affect our liver function. So we also have to be very careful with the supplements we're buying. And you gotta test if you start taking a supplement that is gonna give you all the amino acids and all of the minerals and all of the vitamins that you need, which most likely in America, we're mostly deficient in vitamin D, A, K, and E. And when we start taking a supplement, it is better for you to tell your doctor and to go for regular blood work to make sure that it is not affecting your liver function. I'm telling you, because by experience, since I have to go to the doctor to get my blood work every 3 months because I have hypothyroidism and I have to visit my endocrinologist every 3 months. A few years ago, it was like 6 years ago, that my doctor was like, what in the world are you doing? Your liver is so affected. In the last 3 months, you turn your liver into like the liver of an alcoholic person. And I was like, what? I'm not doing anything. The only thing I'm doing is taking this supplement, these vitamins. And he's like, do not. I stopped taking them. 3 months later, blood work, everything was back to normal. So I'm telling you guys that some supplements are made, I don't know, maybe they have way too many ingredients. Who knows, way too many chemicals. So I know that in my body, I have to be very careful with whatever supplements I'm taking. But definitely we have to take supplements because our body doesn't function well when we deplete them of all of these minerals and vitamins. Okay, moving on. Lectins. If you have read the book The Plant Paradox by Dr. Stephen Gundry, you are very aware of what lectins are. So lectins is a compound that plants release when somebody ate them to protect itself, because this is the way that plants secure that they don't go extinct. How do you say that word? To prevent it from extinction. Okay, better. So when we eat it, it releases a compound that creates inflammation in the body. Apparently, it also binds to, I believe this one binds to carbohydrates and especially to the sugars in our body. And it starts attacking the energy that we have, the fat that we have stored in our body, and it creates a lot of joint pain and inflammation, as well as affecting the brain. Lectins come in nice shades, plants such as potato, white potatoes, eggplants, peppers, bell peppers, tomatoes, and all of the other options of plants that I already mentioned also have lectins, like the leafy greens and the soy, corn, chickpeas, peas, legumes like lentils and beans. Anyway, I just keep repeating the same ones because apparently all of those have either phytic acid, oxalic acid, and lectins. Okay. Moving on, let's talk about omega-6 fatty acids. So apparently our brain is very sensitive to omega-6 fatty acids, and we need to really make sure that we eat small amounts of it because the brain doesn't need that much. Apparently it needs only 3 grams per day, but it better come from a good source because if we're ingesting a bad source of omega-6 fatty acids, then it affects brain function immediately. It goes straight into the mitochondria, which is the energy source of the cell, preventing the cell from creating the electrons that it needs to send to the rest of the brain in order for the brain to function well. So apparently it affects brain cognition immediately. So we may experience foggy brain and loss of memory. And when we feel like our brain is not working at its best. And it's because we are ingesting food that has been made with cheap oils, like vegetable oils that these companies can make. It's even a fake vegetable because it's not the real deal. It's vegetable oil. So it's like canola oil, safflower, sunflower, all of these cheap oils. And when they are in contact with heat, they become like an atomic bomb. It's even worse for the brain. So it's bad enough to buy it and just add it, let's say, to the salad that we thought was healthy. I know. But anyway, bad enough eating it like that. And it's even worse if we cook with it. If we microwave it or cook with it, apparently it's like the worst. So the safe sources of omega-6 fatty acids are avocados, fat that comes in meat, especially grass-fed beef, and olive oil is safe. Still don't cook with oil, but that we knew already. That understanding has been very clear for several years, right? So we prefer just to add it on top of the food, but not to cook with it. Okay, so the good fat omega fatty acids is the omega-3 fatty acids. Those are the ones that the brain needs the most. The omega-6, they need it our brain needs it in a small quantity, and we have to be very careful with it. Okay, next category is going to be glyphosate, which is a weed killer. So most vegetables and fruits are sprayed with this weed killer. And even if it says organic, we have to make sure that we wash everything very, very well. That's why it's more recommended to buy our vegetables and fruits at a local farmer's market. And if we know the farmer, we trust that source, is even better. But many times we don't have access to that. So if we need to go to the grocery store, we're still trying to buy organic food, still make sure that you wash it very, very well. Okay, now let's go to the next category, which is histamines, which comes in fermented food, which some of them is supposed to be healthy, especially to feed the gut microbiome, the bacteria in our intestine. For example, like kimchi and sourdough and like kombucha. That's supposed to be good. But if you eat some fermented food or you eat some leftovers, and it gives you puffy eyes, or it increases your cravings of sugar, or it makes you sleepy immediately, then most likely it has high quantities of histamine. Then it is good to be aware of these to allow ourselves to feel our body and to listen to the way that our body speaks to us, because all of these symptoms is just our body trying to tell us, hey, how about if we don't eat this anymore because I cannot handle it. So if we have the puffy eyes, we're retaining water, getting sleepy, getting foggy, fatigue, especially after we eat a certain kind of food, then like I have an example. I just recently was traveling with one of my best friends, and when she eats sugar, she's immediately like swollen. She retains water. Her hands get swollen, inflamed. And she definitely experiences joint pain, and she gets sleepy. So it's like, and I saw it happening in front of my eyes. We got on a plane and we had bought some chocolates as souvenirs that we were bringing to people back to the United States. And she ate the chocolate and swollen, inflamed, pain, and sleepiness immediately. So it's like, is the body telling you, hey, let's not have these anymore. Okay. So next quality, low quality milk. A1 casein is the milk that comes from industrialized farms. This milk has been pasteurized, homogenized, and in this process, it breaks the proteins, damages the proteins, becomes very toxic for us. So when you're going to buy milk, buy A2 casein, which most likely comes from goats, sheep, camels, and buffaloes. So I switched to goat milk since 2 years ago, same as goat milk, cheese, and all my dairy products come from goat. Most likely they are not coming from an industrialized farm. Hopefully we're not receiving anything bad. If you guys have been into my 10-day detox or you know me for a long time, you know that I was the almond milk queen. And I was showing you videos on social media on how to make your own almond milk at home. Apparently, it's highly toxic because, as I said, seeds are high on phytic acid and oxalic acid. Apparently, we're still drinking all that toxicity. So, no more almond milk. Goodbye. We had a nice ride, but now I'm really enjoying the goat milk. And it does not cause any inflammation. It doesn't affect my stomach. It's just amazing. So give it a try. A2 casein, definitely stay away from A1 casein products. Okay, let's talk about low quality protein, especially coming from meat. So stay away from meat that you can easily think, I wonder how they grew this animal. So meat that comes from industrialized farms, easily to identify chicken, because it's the easiest for farms to just grow. They grow those chickens in a second. They don't feed them well. And when we eat meat from chicken or dogs or pigs that come from an industrialized farm, though that meat is high in omega-6 fatty acids. And as we already talked about, it goes straight to the brain, affecting brain function and the mitochondria in the cells in our brain. Best meat is grass-fed, definitely. So, and hopefully we can trust that if it says grass-fed, that it truly is. So we have to be very careful with our source of meat. Also, you may think that a safer choice is protein powder. The issue with it is that let's think about how they make these proteins. Obviously, they make it at places that they also make other products. So that's why sometimes we see in the ingredients there's a warning that this product may contain some peanut or some sunflower oil or blah blah blah. Okay, so those little warnings that they're giving us is extra ingredients that most likely are high on phytic acid, oxalic acid, or omega-6 fatty acid, then they're blocking our body's ability to absorb the nutrients. So we're drinking this protein powder that we think is bringing us all of these nutritional facts, right? Because we're reading all the nutrition and it says that it's giving us all the minerals and all the vitamins that we need, as well as the amino acids that come from a piece of meat. But in reality, our body cannot absorb it because it also has these other ingredients. That's a very tricky subject. I also stopped drinking protein powder, protein shakes, because my body told me to stop. But there came a point that every time I drank a protein shake, my gut was inflamed. And that's the way that my body tells me we cannot handle some ingredients in this food that you're giving us. So I listen to my body. It's not worth the pain or being uncomfortable, all bloated for days just because I drank a protein shake. I tried several brands and several different ones, the pea one, the brown rice one, the whey one, and the hemp one. I tried so many. all of them were upsetting my stomach, so I stopped. So that's a tricky subject too. And apparently all these protein powders, even if they say that they're giving us a lot of amino acids, there's 20 different amino acids that come in meat that the protein powder cannot replace. So also, if you know me for a long time, you know that for a couple of years I was a vegetarian, another couple of years I was vegan, I then a pescatarian because I had to, my levels of iron were low, I was anemic, so my doctor, since I have to go every 3 months to the doctor, he was like, Maria, we gotta bring some meat back, we gotta bring fish back, we gotta bring eggs back. And then little by little, I started adding more and more food. And then there came a moment that I realized, okay, I'm tired of being anemic for so many years. I have to eat meat. I have to eat a piece of steak. And then I started feeling the difference in my body. Like, especially, I will eat a piece of steak on a Friday night. And then on Saturday, I will have to teach a 10-hour long Zumba training. And I was able to maintain my energy for the whole day instead of crashing so quickly. Yeah, I felt a big difference, and my blood work showed it. I no longer have anemia. So yay! I had to reintroduce beef back. So if you're gonna do the same, not that I am suggesting you stop doing anything, you do what works for you. I'm just sharing all my processes. So maybe it helps, it brings some light to you. Maybe you're like, okay, good for you, Maria, but that doesn't work for me. It's all good. Okay, so let's talk about low quality fish. So the thing is that fish is, we are destroying our oceans. So now our fish are highly contaminated, exposed to plastics and mercury. So we have to try to find the types of seafood that doesn't absorb that much plastic and toxicity. So like scallops and mussels are better choices than the normal fish. And apparently we have to stay away from tilapia and Atlantic salmon. Apparently sockeye salmon is the good one, but it's more fishy that I don't enjoy that much. But the Atlantic salmon is no longer safe. And stay away from shark and dolphin and tuna and shrimp. So anyway, what are the choices? I know, I'm as shocked as you are. I'm just sharing. Okay, last one, let's talk about artificial additives. So these are the colors, fake colors that is put in food with refined sugars, sweeteners such as sucralose that are super bad, that increase our cravings and that also damage our DNA. It goes straight into the mitochondria and affects the cells in our body and our ability to create energy. Also affects the brain function. I saw it several times with my kid when my son was 7 years old and he was diagnosed with ADHD. And I decided to not give him medicine, but try to help him to control the symptoms by controlling his diet. And I had to eliminate anything artificial. So I'm sure he eats crap now because he's 20 years old, so he's rebelling against his mother's system. But for at least 10 years, from 7 to 17, this kid couldn't eat a candy or a packaged chip, no chips, no Doritos, no nothing, no cake, nothing with artificial colors and flavors or preservatives. And sometimes he will come home, and because he traveled the world with me while I was teaching my Zumba trainings, I will pick him up on Friday and then we will travel for the weekend, or then we will go away for weeks. But sometimes I will pick him up at school on Friday and go straight to the airport with him, and I will see him going crazy, bouncing off the walls at the airport, and like not able to focus or to listen to me, because the main thing in his ADHD was the impulsiveness. He couldn't control himself. He would just get in trouble, and even though I said don't do it, he will keep doing it and doing it and doing it, and he will be bouncing off the walls. And I was like, Nicholas, what did you eat today? And he's like, nothing. And I'm like, you ate something. Amor, please just tell me what you ate. And then after a while, he will be like, okay, I ate a cake, a cupcake or something like that. And I'm like, I knew it, because this is not you anymore. Like, it will send him off the walls, and like no ability to concentrate or to listen or to control himself or his emotions. Like, wow, it was so shocking for me to see my kid going through that. And he will be a totally different kid as long as he was staying away from artificial colors and additives and gluten. Gluten would like obviously drive him crazy. So guys, this is the end. I have mentioned all the categories. I didn't talk about what's considered bad food, because hopefully you already know what it is. Like pasta, there's nothing good in pasta. I mean, other than the pleasure that you feel eating it, but really there's zero nutritional value in pasta. So I'm not talking about or cakes or all of the things that we struggle not to eat, or alcohol. So again, I didn't want to dedicate this whole episode to bad food, but only to the shocking, good, healthy food that turns out not to be good for us. So I hope this brings some light to you. I hope that I inspire you to go and read more about it, listen more about it, do your research, and start making some changes in your diet. It has definitely taken me a couple of years to do all these changes. At least I believe I'm doing better. It's impossible to do it perfect, but hopefully I will be able to put all of this knowledge together and revamp my program and be able to offer it to you guys very soon. I know some of you have been very eager for me to give you the upgraded version of this program, which I am gonna call it the 10-day body reset, because I want us to go through a reset together and to reset and to start with the right foot, to start in a better way to continue to try to do better for the rest of our lives with access to better information that has been released recently. But of course, whatever system we create now in 10 years will no longer work, because thank God we have access to so much information like never before. So we'll continue to revamp everything, all of our systems, and to continue to try to do better every time. Thank you so much for listening to me today. Please write in the comments if something sparkled your curiosity, or if you learned something from this podcast, from this episode in particular, or if there's anything that you want me to talk about in my upcoming episodes. Thank you so much for those that started following me. I have 35 followers on Spotify. Thank you so much. And I have 17 on my new YouTube channel, because this is completely different than my dancing live and dancing social media, which I already have those channels established. But I'm starting from scratch, and I am so thrilled and in awe that 17 people want to follow my channel on YouTube and 35 people on Spotify. So thank you so much for your support. But I hope you're also benefiting from this information, and that I am able to continue to bring very good and interesting and life-changing information throughout all of my episodes. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week.